One of the most respected and experienced voices in the White House press corps, Helen Thomas. Over the past 4 decades, she has covered 8 presidential administrations, from Kennedy's assassination to Watergate to Clinton's impeachment. She has reported the major stories of our time with tough, direct questions. She's also been a trailblazer for women in journalism. Among her victories was playing a part in persuading the National Press Club to admit women as members. In 1974, she was named the White House bureau chief for United Press International, a post that she continues to hold to this day. I am pleased to have her on this broadcast. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
You're looking great, Helen. You
think
are.
I better quit while I'm ahead after that introduction.
No. Well, there's not a
persuading.
word that was not true, right? Not a word that was not true. So let's just talk about the news of the day. So Blumenthal's been up to be interrogated by members of the Congress.
Tomorrow they decide whether, to have live witnesses or to show the videos.
What's your guess on that?
Well, I think they don't want live witnesses. I think there's enough votes against that. I'm not sure. I'm always wrong. I didn't think the president was going to be impeached, so I'm always hesitant now to predict anything.
Yeah, this is not an experience that prophecy has done well.
Exactly.
The interesting thing about it now, I mean, we're clearly at the end game, aren't we?
Oh, I definitely think that. I mean, I think that's safe to say. I think it's the light at the end of the tunnel. The long nightmare is almost over.
All those phrases that we heard some time ago
Exactly.
at the end of Watergate.
Right.
What damage do you think it has done, first to the country, second to the presidency, third to the Congress, and fourth to the president himself? First, the country.
Okay, first to the country, I think that it's been a shocker, a real grand awakening that human beings live in the White House with all their faults and so forth. I think there's kind of a reassessment of the pedestal, the icons and so forth. That's okay. I mean, maybe it's a bit dehumanizing, but I think at the same time, there's no question we think of the White House as hallowed ground. Yeah. But
because we think of history happening
I don't
there.
honestly think that, it's been severely shattered, although a lot of people do think that the country has been really hurt.
Has it brought the Congress into disrepute?
I think it has, in the sense that they, too, have a grand awakening, that the people are really listening, they're watching. People are turned off. They keep saying that, but I don't believe it. I believe that Congress is going to get its comeuppance because the people are responding when they say, we don't care what the voters think. The voters probably say, yeah, well, wait till year 2000, you'll see, and so forth. I really think that people are participating in this. And they're trying to call a halt, and I think that Congress does have to listen.
And the presidency?
Oh, no question that it's been tarnished. I mean, the president has really, I think that he has been called everything in the book, and there's no question that he has felt humiliated. He's been the butt of every joke, and yet I think there is still a lot of feeling for him. His popularity polls are up there, and I think that people are giving him the benefit of the doubt.
What happens now in Washington, now that this thing is coming to its end?
Pick up the pieces and go forward. I think that we've been through wars, we've been through scandal, we've been through everything.
We can go through this.
So, yeah, we're not totally demolished, far from it. But there'll be a lot of soul-searching.
How do you assess, apart from this, Clinton, in terms of leadership, intelligence, political skills, decision-making, vision?
I think that the presidency is on-the-job training, and I think that he blew the first 2 years because he had something 20, something 30 sort of running the White House. Actually, too many interns in a way, they don't want to pay the price in the sense because they could not really run the world. They got on the campaign train, plane, and they came to White House, and usually it takes a couple days to get arrogant in the White House. They came in arrogant. Well, I think the president did learn a lot. He learned that it's very tough at the top, And the question of decision-making, I think he learned a lot about that and so forth. I think that in the assessment, barring Monica Lewinsky, that he would be considered a fairly good president. Certainly an education president. He does want to prepare the country to be ready for the 21st century, to have an educated people, a trained people. And from that aspect, I mean, U.S. has to maintain its leadership. Otherwise, we're going to have a whole new crop of isms in the next century. And I think that we're the only ones who are the superpower remaining that who can cope. So from all those aspects, I think that he has really tried his best.
As an intelligent man?
Very, very intelligent in some ways, and
stupid in others.
Street smarts, he had none.
None, yeah.
I think
and political skills in terms of getting votes, but not political skills in some other ways.
That's right. I mean, maybe he over-compartmentalized and did not realize that his personal life does impact on his public life, that he was in a position where he's on camera. He's watched every minute. He's wired. And not to realize that, and yet a man who was so totally attuned to the new high-tech and the globalization of the world and so forth. I don't know how he could have separated himself out, but he did.
What's the status of the relationship between this president and the reporters who cover the White House?
Well, it started out pretty rocky. He really was going to make end runs around the White House press corps. He really thought he could leapfrog over us. He was going to have town meetings and go on Larry King, and that would be it. And he soon found out that at 2 o'clock in the morning, when things are breaking and you want to talk to the press, we'll be there and so forth. So I think we had a modus vivendi. He finally realized that he had to deal with us. Now we haven't. Now there is no communication in terms of holding news conferences or anything else. It's a total blackout until this...
That's actually one of the tragedies, too, of the Monica Lewinsky affair, is that he can't just kick back and have reporters in and talk.
Well, he knows what the questions are going to be, so and
his lawyers are saying you've got to be on guard, too.
And, we haven't been able to really break through that sound barrier. There's a real wall there now. There's this story about NBC News having this Lisa Myers interview. You know anything about that? Well, I've heard the rumors and so forth.
It's been reported that they have an interview with somebody and that the NBC is not, at the present time, planning to broadcast it. Mm-hmm. Is there any talk around the White House press corps about it?
Actually, a little bit of rumor, and I think that Joe Lockhart has been asked whether he had put any pressure on, and he was in high dudgeon at the question. But the thing is, I think
he was in
that
what?
he was.
He didn't like the question.
No, well, he did. He didn't. Right. I wasn't quite sure what it. I'm sure he thought, who me, talk to a network and try to tell him.
What I wouldn't dare think of that.
Off a story. No, taught him off a story. But I don't think you should tease a story. I said that on a previous program. I think you either got it or you don't have it, and you have it backed up, and then you use it.
Otherwise, don't talk about it.
Absolutely not. I mean, what is this?
There is much talk, as you know, today about traditional news sources. Mm-hmm. UPI and AP and even NBC and ABC and CBS and the New York Times and what have been supplanted by Drudge Report, by MSNBC.
How about everyone with a laptop?
Everyone with a laptop, the internet.
It's a journalist.
Yeah. Now, talk about that. Tell me how
I think it's very, very dangerous. They obviously don't have our training in terms of standards of ethics and so forth. I think it's a kind of a brave new world that we have to be very wary of. I think it's a sad development. I mean, I want everybody to be informed. I want everybody to be able to get the facts. But are they getting the facts, or are they just getting these stories willy-nilly that are unverified?
There's no editing process taking place.
We have the possibility of ruining lives and reputations. And I think that true newspaper people and reporters, broadcasters, and so forth, take that very seriously. And I think that it'll go by the board if this continues.
You don't hear, the Gore campaign is gearing up. Mm-hmm. What's his relationship with the press?
Well, I think it's pretty wary. you know, all vice presidents are very walk on tippy toes. They don't want to say anything, and they want to, you know, stay in tune with the president on all things, and he's always by the president's side on. So I don't think you have a very defined person yet until he's allowed to really break loose.
But one by one, his challenges seem to be dropping off. With Gephardt's announcement yesterday, and
That's right.
Bob Kerry's already said he's not going to run.
Exactly.
Paul Wellstone says he's not going to run. So it leaves maybe John Kerry, maybe, and certainly Bill Bradley.
I don't think John Kerry will do it.
You know, so it may be just a two. That's not in the vice president's interest to see this thing immediately begin as a two-person race between him and Bill Bradley. I wouldn't think, because there Bradley becomes the single alternative to the vice president, right?
Well, Jesse Jackson might run.
You think he'll run?
Well, he says he's toying with the idea. I mean,
yeah. How has your job changed?
Well,
Being
we
a
obviously
wire service
it's
reporter.
Your cameras. I think there's no question that TV is the primary communications now for the White House and so forth. If the president wants something or the White House wants to get something out in a hurry, it's handed to CNN on a silver platter. And you can't blame them. Everybody's got CNN on, including us, and so forth. So I think that television definitely has superseded the wire services in many, many ways.
Why do we need the wire services?
Oh, well, we still have newspapers. People still want to have that newspaper in their hand and so forth. And I think newspapers can do things more in depth. I mean, we're beyond a soundbite. I think that newspapers do a real wonderful job in that respect.
Have newspapers done a better job covering?
Broadcast does not do the wonderful job in terms of being in depth.
Yeah. I was going to ask this question about the coverage. How do you assess the press coverage? Has print done better than broadcast?
It's very hard to make the difference because we've become a country of one newspaper towns.
Right.
And all the competition practically in all the big cities is gone. So it's very hard to assess, really. I think everything is necessary and everything that informs is good. But I don't know. I've been on lots of these talk programs and so forth. You open your mouth and you're about to express something and they cut you off immediately. Well, now we got to go to the... And
You've been on the wrong programs, Helen.
Yeah, this is right. This is strange.
So, take me through your day. What time do you get up?
I get up about 4:45, and I'm out the door at 5-ish.
Are you really?
Mm-hmm.
To where do you go? Straight to the White House?
White House, right.
And you get there at, what, 5:30?
Right.
Yeah,
and I am armed with the Washington Post, New York Times.
So you sit down and have your cup of coffee at your little
right,
cubicle
and turn
over there.
on CNN and check the wires and so forth.
And looking for what?
What happened while we were sleeping. And a lot has happened. Call you off any revolutions, any coup d'etats, what is happening in the world on the overnight and so forth. It was Dean Rusk who said that while we're sleeping, half the world is making trouble.
Yeah.
It's really true. And but I don't have to be there at that hour, and I'm not a martyr. It's just that I like to do my homework, and I think you have to be prepared for how you face the day at the White House in terms of what's been going on, and you have to really arm yourself with some of the facts that are...
And there's a press briefing that'll come at what, 10:30, 11?
We have a so-called gaggle around 9:30, which is we all pile into Joe Lockhart, the press secretary's office, and we stand around his desk, and I have a chair. I'm sort of the dueñas. And we ask questions.
Seniority gives you a chair.
Yes, that's right, with a plaque. No, not really. But... we ask Joe questions about the President's Day. He usually announces what's coming up. And he tries to guide us in the right direction as to what's coming up. A lot of the questions, he says, well, I'll answer that at the 1 o'clock briefing because he knows he has to do more homework about it. But it sort of lasts about 15 minutes, and we all go off in our different directions.
And you spend a lot of your day calling up sources at the White House, guys, and the people who will speak to you off the record
right.
and give you sort of
and they are talking more in a sense, but on background, not by name or anything, to try to give you their sense of, well, some people would call it their spin, but I think they realize the importance of, and yet they have not been going on the air as much as, and sort of the lawyers in the White House have tried to really muzzle them from
Is the White House
too
a different?
upfront.
Yeah, clearly. Is the White House a different place since Erskine Bowles and Mike McCurry left?
No, it's not that different. I think Bowles was a terrific chief of staff. I mean, such a man of such dignity, and McCurry was very smooth. But I think Joe Lockhart does a very good job. I mean, you ask him a question, he gives you an answer. I mean, he cuts through. He isn't a nuanced man. I mean, he's not. He wasn't at the State Department podium, so he really is sort of a straight shooter.
As McCurry was.
He's much more political. He's a slugger.
Mike is.
No, Joe Lockhart. Yeah, I mean, he knows the shortest distance between 2 points.
But Mike took the position that he didn't want to know about.
That's right.
The scandal, and so therefore had nothing to tell you.
That's true, and I can't blame him for trying to save himself. At least he didn't get into a credibility gap.
Yeah, and he didn't get subpoenaed.
Exactly.
So
those lawyers' bills do pile up.
When does your day end?
Well, you never leave while a story's breaking.
Yeah.
But I go home around 6, 7. If you're covering a state visit and covering a state dinner, it could be at midnight. But so there is no set time.
You know, would any of these presidents ever call you up at home?
I wish they would. Nixon did once, and I've talked to Johnson on the phone, but those were days long ago.
Yeah. How long will you stay on this job?
Just forever. You never know.
I'm looking at a happy face, aren't I?
You never know from day to day.
Yeah.
You know, we've been going out, UPI has been going out of business since the day I started in 1943.
Did I read that Arnold Borgrov is now the head of UPI?
What I mean is you're never certain in our business where you are and so forth. I love my work. I think that I wish for everyone to care about their work as much as we in our business do.
A lot more women are there now because you were on the frontier.
Oh, no. I mean, a lot of women fought for the breakthroughs, but we had to fight every inch of the way.
What, the male establishment was resistant to having women?
Unbelievable. When I started covering the White House...
competition.
No, it wasn't that. It's just a whole cultural thing, I think, and... When I started covering the White House, I could belong to the White House Correspondents Association. Yeah. The dues were $2 a year. The only raison d'etre was to have a dinner in honor of the President of the United States once a year. Right. When I started covering the White House, I could belong to the association, but I couldn't go to the dinner. Yeah.
What year was that? That was 19...
That was in 61.
My goodness, 30 years ago, you couldn't go, 38 years ago, you could not go.
So in 62, the women covering the White House went to Pierre Salinger, and we said President Kennedy should not attend this dinner if we can't go and we're members. Kennedy agreed, and that was the first time we started to get to go. Can you believe that?
No, I can't.
No, I know it's very, very hard. We had to break down the doors of the National Press Building. All these clubs, Sigma Delta Chi, I think the Overseas, I don't know about the Overseas Press Club. Maybe they were.
Yeah. What's your great regret?
My great regret? Well, you always Monday morning quarterback every story.
Whether you should have gotten to a story before, or whether you...
In terms of Watergate,
as well as you should.
I didn't know Monica Lewinsky, all of these things. You always think, where was I? And you do have some sense of, I was there, but I wasn't sure. Maybe I should have known more. I think you Monday morning quarterback every story you do, really. You always know you can do better.
My guess is that you think all this reporting and questions about the president's private life is out of bounds.
No. Are you kidding? Absolutely not.
In other words, a president's personal life, what goes on in the relationship with his wife and what goes on with whatever extramarital relationships he might have, not with an intern, not with an employee, but is fair game, because that's the nature of the presidency.
Well, I think that when you're in public life, if you think you're going to have a private life, you may or may not. But you do take that chance. You've got to know that you are wired, you're on camera now. And I think that if you cherish your privacy that much, you better not be president, you better not go into public life.
Do you think independent counsel should be investigating the private lives of politicians?
Only if it impacts on some sort of corruption or crime and so forth. But I I think these questions are going to be very important in the future. I do say that you should decide it. If you're going into public life, you better decide at the age of 5 and live accordingly, because nothing is sacred anymore.
Oh yeah, I don't think the presidency is worth that, Helen.
Maybe you, but I didn't expect you were running. Are you announcing?
No, but I just think that to have to worry about things like that when you're, as young as you have to.
No, but
because they're all going back. I mean, it's like Bill Clinton has had every check he's ever written, everything he's ever done, under a microscope.
That's true, and that may or may not continue. The other side of the coin is we may become a much more sophisticated society and accept a lot more.
America knows you best, as in the words of Sam Donaldson, what you do is question, harangue, cajole, and coax the president into making newsworthy statements. Fair?
Who, me?
That's a fair... If they had that as your obituary, you would be disappointed, would you?
No.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Helen Thomas, UPI. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.